What's up, guys? It's Austin from Yu-Gi-Oh! Theory. Today I have a deck profile for my PSY-Frames. I haven't done a deck profile on this deck in forever because I kind of stopped playing it for a while because I didn't have an Omega at the time. But now I have an Omega, so I can actually play it. But it's pretty good. It's basically, the entire deck is basically hand traps. It's a really newbie deck. It's terrible to play against. Sometimes if you draw a good turn, it's basically like your opponent skips theirs, or if you draw a good hand, I don't know what I'm talking about, but if you draw a good hand, it's basically like your opponent skips theirs as to how much stuff you negate. It's honestly really hard to play against, and I think it'd probably do pretty good in today's meta just because of how hand trap heavy the meta is, and this is nothing but hand traps, and they all work together, so it kind of flows easier. But anyway, let's just get into the deck. First, for the main deck, just starting out with the PSY-Frame monsters, I run 3 PSY-Frame Gear Gamma. It's pretty much a must-have in the deck. It negates monster effects. What it does for like all the tuners, what they do is they negate something and then they special summon it themselves plus a PSY-Frame driver. So this negates monsters. Also, they get banished during the end phase. What you can do is you can try to banish them with a different effect or get them off the field so they don't end up getting banished. Like if you synchro with them, they don't get banished, and if you can banish it off one of their trap effects, then they don't get banished. But it banishes to the next standby phase, so you get it back. That's why that's actually beneficial. Next, I run 3 PSY-Frame Gear Delta. This negates spell effects, so it's really important too. Oh, and by the way, you have to have no monsters on the field to activate these effects. And I know that sounds like a big stipulation, but when we get to the synchros, you'll figure out how that's not really that big of a deal. Next, you run 3 Alpha. This is for summons. It doesn't actually negate the summon. You just search out any PSY-Frame card, so you can search out your field spell, which is probably like the most important part of this deck. But it just so you don't negate the summon, which kind of sucks. But it's also a normal summon and a special summon, so it doesn't matter what type of summon it is. But you can always just bring this out anyway and then synchro into one of the synchros and then get rid of it somehow. So that's always honestly pretty easy. Next, for 3 ofs, you run 3 PSY-Frame Driver. PSY-Frame Driver is pretty much the heart of this deck besides the field spell. It's what all your other monsters special summon out. So, they can special summon it from the hand deck, or graveyard. So that's what's so versatile about it. You can just special summon it from pretty much anywhere except for the banished pile. Next, you run 2 Beta. This negates attacks and ends the battle phase, so it's also pretty good. And with the only problem with this is if you activate this, you actually can't synchro summon using the field spell because the field spell stipulates that it has to be out of the battle phase, and this effect always goes off in the battle phase because it's an attacking negation. Next, you run 3 Epsilon. Epsilon is negating traps. Not 3, 2. And negating traps. Depending on what you're playing, you bump this up to 3. This is kind of like a shifting in numbers, but if you're just going into a game, you don't know what you're playing, just play 2 is a good, good number to work with without, feeling like you don't have enough. Next, you run 2 PSY-Frame Multi-Threader. This is treated as PSY-Frame Driver while it's in the hand or graveyard. So you have to draw it or you have to dump it with something for it to be treated as a PSY-Frame Driver. That's why you don't run it at 3. And if I think a PSY-Frame Tuner is special summon, you can special summon this from your graveyard. And then I think if one of your PSY-Frame cards would be destroyed, you can discard this instead. Yeah, by battle or card effects. So you can discard this anytime something of yours is going to get attacked over. And you can, I think, negate it. Or maybe it just isn't destroyed. Yeah, just discard that card instead. That's it with the PSY-Frame monsters. Now into like text and stuff. You run 3 Card D. You don't actually really do much during your turn besides maybe activating your field spell and setting some cards. And maybe activating some draw cards. So Card D is great. You just normal summon it, attribute it, and draw 2 cards, but it ends your turn right there. And you have to activate it during main phase 1, so you can't just like go and attack main phase 2, activate it to tribute. It kind of misses your battle phase, but this is a more going first deck anyway. So Card D isn't holding it back much. And then last for monsters, run 1 Max C. You don't really have to run hand traps in this deck because the entire thing is hand traps. But one thing it doesn't cover is drawing off hand traps, and Max C is just the best hand trap regardless. So I just decided to run it. That's it with monsters. Now for spells. So the first spell, the most important card in the entire deck, is PSY-Frame Circuit. Circuit's effect is if a PSY-Frame card is special summon, or a monster, is special summon to your side of the field, off of its effect, you can immediately, after this effect resolves, synchro summon a monster using PSY-Frame monsters you control. So you can synchro during your opponent's turn. That's what's so good about it. And if your PSY-Frame monster would be attacked or is attacking, you can discard a PSY-Frame monster from your hand, and your PSY-Frame monster gains attack equal to whatever you discarded. Next, for 3-ofs, you run 3 Terraforming. Terraforming, just to search that out because this is such an important card. For the synchro summoning effect, of course. The second effect comes in handy, but not as much. Next, 3 Pot of Duality. You almost never special summon during your turn, and whenever Omega comes back, it's not treated as a special summon. It's treated as like a... I'm not exactly sure what it's treated as, but I'm not sure. I don't think it's treated as a special summon, but if I'm wrong, I'd like to know that, and please comment below if I am. 1 Upstart, just for getting extra draws. 1 Twin Twister, just because this deck, I was debating between Twin Twister and Dark Hole what to put in here, but this deck has a tougher time dealing with spells and traps than it does monsters. Like, yes, you can negate them with the hand trap type cards, but if they have like a face up card, like a spell card or something, and it's just dealing problems for me, and I can't really get my spell one out, this is really helpful. But the monsters actually get rid of other monsters and stuff, so that's why I chose this over Dark Hole. That's it for spells. Now for traps. The traps of this deck are actually probably my favorite part, besides the extra deck, but they are really fun. First for traps, you run 3 PSY-Frame Overload. What this card does is you can banish 1 PSY-Frame from your hand and then banish any card on the field. This comes in handy getting over kind of big monsters or just problematic monsters that can't be targeted, or not targeted, but that can't be destroyed, such as like beetles and stuff. That's a monster made often in pendulums, so this is really good against him. And just getting rid of all kinds of other stuff. It can banish back row too, and it banishes it face down, which is the best part, so it can't interact with any other cards after it's banished. Next, you run 2 PSY-Frame Accelerator. This card's okay. You use it mostly to... because what you'll do is you'll special summon those 2, and you might not have your field spell in the field, so you can't synchro summon automatically. You activate its effect to pay 500 life points to target one of your PSY-Frame cards. You will most of the time want to target your tuner, so maybe you can make Crystal Wing or something later on. You banish it until the next standby phase, so it doesn't get banished during the end phase because it's not on the field. It's already banished, so it can't be banished again. And then if a PSY-Frame card leaves the field, you can special summon 1 from your hand. So off of this effect, if you banish 1, you can just special summon 1 to take its place right after. But I think it gets destroyed during the end phase or something. No, you can just special summon 1 from your hand. It doesn't get destroyed during the end phase. You can't do it during the damage step though, or maybe it's just the battle phase. No, you just can't do it during the damage step. And then last for traps, you run 2 Psychic Overload. Psychic Overload, you just target 3 psychic monsters in your graveyard, shuffle them back, and then draw 2 cards. This card is actually really good. People have told me it's kind of slow just because it's a trap, but it's not that slow in PSY-Frames because you do most of your stuff during your opponent's turn anyway, so it just kind of falls in suit with the rest of the deck. But overall, it's a really good trap. Shuffle 3 back in. Say you just used a bunch of your cards for your synchros, you can just shuffle them back in, and then you can search them with something later on. Because you do banish a good bit in this deck, so it is good to be able to recur your things. And then Omega puts stuff back in your graveyard from your banish pile, so this also helps with this too. That's it with the main deck. Now for the extra deck. First, you run 3 Omega. I actually only have 1 Omega, but I really need to get 3. But 3 in this deck is absolutely incredible. If you have 3 Omega, you can probably make 2 Omegas at least during your opponent's turn if you draw a decent hand. And if you draw a really good hand, you can probably make 3 and just banish 3 cards every time they enter their main phase, or every time you enter your main phase. It's honestly really dirty. And then when it goes to the graveyard, you can just shuffle it and another card from your graveyard into the decks. And then during your opponent's standby phase, you can target one of your banished cards and return it to the graveyard. So he's very versatile, and 2800 attack is pretty decent. And with the boost from your field spell, if you discard, like, say, a Gamma, he gains an 1000 boost, so that puts him at 38, so he can be pretty formidable, pretty quick. So he's definitely not a slouch, and he's like the main monster in the deck. Next, I run 3 Zeta. Zeta is also a really good card. You target a face-up attack position special summon monster, banish Zeta and it until the next standby phase, and this is a during either player's turn effect. So if they special summon something from the extra deck in attack position, you can go ahead and just banish it with Zeta, and that clears your field for other hand traps. That's the point with this deck. Is as soon as you get Gamma or Omega out during your opponent's turn, you want to banish it plus something from their hand, so you can open your field up for more hand traps to be activated, because they have to have no monsters on your field to activate. So that's what's really good about this. I run 1 Crystal Wing. I go into it some. It's a little hard to get out, to be honest, but when you do get out, it is pretty nice. But it is suck because you can't banish itself to open up your field. It's something you more just summon and sit on. So that's what I use it for. Stardust Dragon actually is good because it can sit on the field until something that would destroy it, and then I can tag out with it, and then bring it back during the end phase. So after I tag out, my effects still go off, so that is really nice about that. Next, 1 Red Dragon Archfiend. This is just if I'm getting kind of, if they're kind of on the offensive sorta, and I'm not doing too good, and I can only really make 1 synchro, and they have like a lot of monsters, and I just really need to get rid of them. I just drop Red Dragon Archfiend on them. Hot Red Dragon Archfiend. Same thing with Red Dragon Archfiend. If they have a lot of defensive monsters, it just depends on which one I feel like doing. I like dropping Black Rose Dragon on them during their turn, like in the middle of all their plays. It's basically like a during their turn Dark Hole, and it's actually pretty good. And then I gotta banish it off something else to get rid of it, but after that, it is pretty good to just watch their face as I drop a Black Rose Dragon on them during their turn. Next, I run 1 Michael. Michael, I could run multiples of it just because it is really good, and you can use his effect to banish himself if he's clogging your zone, so that's always nice. And pretty much it. You just pay 1,000 and banish a card on the field. You can only activate it in your turn, but you know, it's whatever. And that's pretty much it for the extra deck, because I don't have a whole lot of synchros, to be honest. I have a good bit, but not like a whole lot. So you can honestly just put whatever you want, but the most important thing is just the PSY-Frame cards, just because they can tag themselves out very easily, especially Omega. As long as your opponent has a card in the hand, you can tag out. Zeta's a little harder because they have to have a attack position special summon monster, which is kind of bad, but it's okay because most of your tuners actually just make Omega instead, because most of them are level 2s. I think you have 9 level 2 tuners and like 5 level 1s, so you'll most of the time be making Omega, but Zeta does come in handy. Like a field of a Zeta and an Omega on the field is actually really good. Plus, like a Stardust Dragon usually is a like a field you can make sort of easily. And then when these come back, they go to the main monster zone, so that's also really helpful. That's kind of why I've been playing this deck lately, just because I don't have to worry about the zones as much. Well, guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you're interested, I'm giving away a Ghost Ogre. You can go to that video to enter the win this Ghost Ogre. It's probably like the 4th or 5th video from the top, so make sure you go check that out. It'll probably be, I don't really usually link things in the description. I'm just, because it's kind of annoying. So if you're interested, just go to my channel and you can find it pretty easily. But anyway, if you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it if you would. Thanks for all the recent support I've gotten on my channel. I've gotten some pretty good comments from some of my viewers, and also I've gotten a good bit of subscribers lately, and I'm just really thankful for that. And it's all because of you guys. So I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.